Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We've got Alan Saunders on today. I want to talk with Alan about more names that have been thrown on the NFL trading block and who the Steelers should actually be targeting if they're really on that market. Then we'll get to your calls, including questions on why the Steelers have moved around their offensive linemen and how that's set back Broderick Jones and the possibility of trading Minkah Fitzpatrick, all here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Alan Saunders. He's back on the show. Alan, always good to have you back, man. I know we've talked about potential trade options before. I personally talked about Jonnu Smith a little bit on Friday because that leaked out that, there's a potential there. But then Kyle Pitts was supposedly put on the trading block, and people talking about Kirk Cousins. And then there's still people want to know about Terry McLaurin. And it's just the spits, the wheel of morality. Turn. Tell us the Steelers target they should be trading for, because that is what everyone wants to know about right now. But I do think the Steelers, they've made their calls. They've made their rounds. We've talked about how they called the Saints about Chris Olave. It wasn't to see right now if they could trade for him, but to gauge the interest. I guess my question to you is, where's the sense of reality in who the Steelers could actually be targeting for, and where are the guys that you're like, absolutely not, that's not a thing?
It's a good question. I think anyone that someone will actually trade is legitimate. I don't think the Steelers are going to be picky about players that are actually available, but I don't think there's very many, frankly, if any, players that are actually available. I know, we've talked about a lot of names, and I think there probably is there may be what was it on eBay? The buy now price, right?
I know.
You're like, this thing's on auction and the highest bid is at 26 cents, but you can buy it right now for $400. And it's like, yeah, nobody's going to do that.
No.
That's what's available right now. The buy now price. Okay. No one is being traded right now for anything that I think the Steelers are going to pay. I think you're going to have to get closer to the season before you're able, in theory, some of these guys could get traded, but I don't see what is the driver that makes a deal right this second.
No, I feel you. And I think that's the bottom line here is, as we've said before, the Steelers are trying to wait for the advantageous moment to get said player. There are chances for the Steelers to go get guys, but they're not here yet. And it's going to come when teams are put in a position where they have to make a move, or they feel like, okay, we're not paying this guy now. We know that for sure. This guy's not part of our future plans. Let's get the maximum return that we can right now.
He has taken this guy's job. You haven't given them an opportunity to do that yet.
Exactly. And it's going to take time. But when I go over some of these options, for example, Jonnu Smith, I get it. Arthur Smith likes him. There's the report Phil Yates. I'm sure he does. He's been with his last two teams, but I'm sorry. I don't think the Steelers are busting down doors to get Jonnu Smith right now. I think that they have made calls, and maybe even the Dolphins themselves have been like, hey, y'all interested? And the Steelers are like, yeah, man, maybe, I don't know. And that's what led to them, Drew Rosenhaus being like, oh, my client, is really interested. He's interested, but he'd love to stay here. A lot of this is posturing from agents. I think that's the other thing about the politics of these reports that get out, Alan. And you and I have talked about this and how agents drive a lot of the narratives because of who they call in the national media, what gets leaked. And then all of a sudden there's a firestorm that you and I have to talk about on our shows because everyone wants to know about it. But that, I think, is a lot more of what's been happening of late as far as trying to drum up interest and seeing what happens there, more so than Omar Khan trying to let it leak out that, oh yeah, let's get that fire started. Omar Khan is doing the research behind the scenes right now. When he makes his move, he'll let you'll find out when he wants you to find out. But all this stuff, I think a lot of this has been fluff from agents to try to drum up, storylines or see how that could impact negotiations anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Omar Khan has talked to almost every team about what pass catchers they have that may be available.
Right.
I'm also sure that there are some teams that have proactively said, "Hey, we think the Steelers might be interested in this guy. What do you think?" The Dolphins and Jonnu Smith are in the middle of a contract negotiation. I am nearly certain that the Steelers' involvement in that process is the entire reason why they were brought up in connection with him. Is that they're looking for leverage one way or the other. I would be very surprised if Jonnu Smith ends up a Steeler. I don't think now or ever. I think there are some guys where you could say, Romeo Dobbs. Okay, maybe later, maybe the Packers get to a place this offseason where we got too many receivers. Okay, then I can see it. I don't think Jonnu Smith is realistic at all. Kyle Pitts is another one that was talked about, not connected to the Steelers specifically, but talked about another same guy, same situation, entering the final year of his contract, looking at contract talks. He's a player that I could see having a contentious contract negotiation. I think he have a reason to think he's a lot more talented than his stats have let on, and that always sets up some contentiousness. So, maybe things get ugly there, very similarly to the Brandon Ayuk situation last year. But I mean, we're at the very beginning of that process, so it's awfully hard to handicap at this point.
Now, the big name that I wanted to address, because a lot of people keep pushing him out there, is Terry McLaurin, of course, Scary Terry, Ohio State star from the Commanders. Yes, Terry McLaurin, he's been holding out of OTAs so far. There's questions about his future with the team, because he has this year on his deal, and then he hits a void year the year after that. So this is the last year that he has on his contract, basically, at this point. And he wants a new deal. And so there's that expectations. But Alan, as I keep trying to tell people, I don't think he's going anywhere. When you look at the Commanders, they were just in the NFC Championship game. Terry McLaurin was a big part of why they were in the NFC Championship game. They just got their star quarterback out the draft. Jaden Daniels looked really good. Oh, and by the way, next year they got $70.3 million in cap space, and they still won't have to pay Jaden Daniels. I really don't think that it would make any sense for them to let Terry McLaurin go when they got the money to keep him, and he's a huge part of what's made them, actual contenders of late. So I know there's a lot of people that really want Scary Terry for the Steelers, but I'm telling you, as out of the picture as some of these other guys are, I think he's one of the guys that by the end of mini camp and into training camp, he'll eventually sign his new deal with the Commanders, and that opportunity will have never even presented itself.
Terry McLaurin in 6 seasons has 6,300 yards. Only in his rookie year, when he only played 14 games, did he not go over 1,000 yards. Here's who's played quarterback for Terry McLaurin. Just bear with me here for a second.
Oh, no.
This is fun. Colt McCoy.
Oh, boy.
Dwayne Haskins. Case Keenum. Kyle Allen. Alex Smith. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Garrett Gilbert. Taylor Heineke. Sam Howell. Carson Wentz. And now, finally, Jaden Daniels. If y'all were willing to pay Terry McLaurin when he was putting up those numbers with that collection of quarterbacks, they're going to pay Terry McLaurin to play with Jaden Daniels. Period. Yeah. This is not happening. Stop thinking about it.
Exactly. So I'm trying to get Steelers fans to understand that before I keep having to post that and the next day, because they will not stop. It's not.
The Steelers would love for it to happen. They would probably even be willing to dramatically. They'd pay the buy now price for Terry McLaurin.
Yes,
there isn't
exactly.
Even that button is gray. You can't even click on it. It's not there.
Yeah. And that's the point here. Is that's he's so good of a player. They're not giving him up. For anything, unless things go really south there for whatever reason. And I'm sorry, I just don't see that happening.
I don't see it. But if that's going to happen, it's going to be on August 25th.
Right. Not in May or June.
In fact, honestly, for the Commanders to trade Terry McLaurin, he would probably have to miss games first before they were like, all right, never mind. Move on. I can't even imagine them trading him on August 25th. I can't.
I'm right with you there. But again, this is why the whole trade situation, yes, the Steelers are players, but the reality of it happening anytime very much soon, don't think it's really there. But we got other questions of yours that we want to take. We'll get to the Still Locked On Steelers call-in line next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you this show is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip: add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. It's no wonder that 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders. We're going to take some calls from the Locked On Steelers call-in line. All right. I'm doing this now for the last time. Like everyone I'm coming at me in the comment section. All right, I get it. I do recognize that George Pickens is on this and he's no longer there and I should take him off. So I finally did it, because every time I start setting up the show, I'm like, I don't have time for this. And then every time I'm done with the show, I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I made some time. There you go. George Pickens is no longer on it. It's being deleted. It's out of the thing, so it'll never be there anymore. You have TJ Watt, Joey Porter Jr., Pat Frymuth, and Cam Hayward there. I hope that you all are happy. Sorry for my rant there, Alan.
Are we taking the George Pickens call? Because that would be pretty perfect.
It would be really funny. I am saving a bit for later. I didn't want to do it today, but there's going to be a time, literally after the George Pickens trade, I got a Jekyll and Hyde pair of calls within the same hour of each other. One person loving the trade, one person hating the trade. That's going to be its own segment itself someday, but I want to save that for later. But remember, you can always call in to the Locked On Steelers podcast at 412-223-6644. Leave your name, where you're from. Keep your question under a minute. We try to get your questions on the show. Noah from North Carolina asking about Steelers offensive line and how they're being used. Take it away, Noah.
What's up, Chris? This is Noah from North Carolina. I got a question about some of the linemen that we drafted over the past few years. How much of a detriment do you think it's been to playing some of them out of position? Ones that come to mind are Kendrick Green, Kevin Dotson, and more specifically, Broderick Jones. Looking at Kendrick Green, they had him at center, and he wasn't very good. He got to Houston, and before he got hurt, if I remember correctly, he was having a pretty good year at guard. And Kevin Dotson, I believe they had him at left guard, when in college I think he played right. Got to the Rams and has been one of the highest graded guards. And then you got Broderick Jones. So they've had a right tackle when in college he played left. I know Tomlin likes having linemen that can play multiple positions, but at what point is it hindering their development, not playing their natural position and what got them drafted in the first place? Appreciate it. Have a good one. Love the show.
Thank you, Noah, for your call. As always, 412-223-6644. Leave your name, where you're from. Keep your question under a minute. Alan, you and I have talked about this at different times, the challenges of playing different positions, and certain flips should be able to happen. But what's your take on, if the Steelers have just been getting this wrong this whole time by even trying to have guys play in other positions?
They certainly got Kendrick Green wrong. Kendrick Green was a guard in college. They thought they could move him to center. He probably needed to move to center to have an NFL career. He has not been good in Houston since he's left Pittsburgh, was barely played last year, even after he was hurt in 23. And if you can't play on Houston's line, you can't play on any of them, because that's been as bad as an offensive line as there's been in the NFL. He's too small to play guard, but they thought they could teach him center. They could not. It did not work. He can play guard. He's just not big enough. That was a failure. I don't think there's any failure in what they've done with Kevin Dotson. To be honest, I don't think there's much of any of a difference between left guard and right guard. I've never heard of a player not be able to play left guard and right guard with like an appropriate amount of lead time, which Dotson certainly had. Dotson was a very promising young player when he was in Pittsburgh. He had brilliant moments, and he also had some total like WTF moments. And he went to Los Angeles and he gained some experience, and he cleaned up some of those lookout blocks from his game. I don't. It's not like he was a player that was bad in Pittsburgh that got good in Los Angeles. He just simply got older and got more consistent. And the Steelers, I mean, they replaced him with Isaac Seumalo. It's not like they got a 5th round pick for him. I mean, it's not like they That was a fifth and it was some kind of pick swap, but whatever, about a 5th round pick for him. It's not like they just like gave up on him and thought he was bad. They simply got a player they thought was better. Broderick Jones, I guess we'll see. I mean, there definitely is a big difference between left tackle and right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Broderick Jones played left tackle in college, but like something around 90% of NFL right tackles played left tackle in college. You have to be one of the best 32 tackles in the NFL to be a starting left tackle. Broderick Jones hasn't been that so far. Will he become that? I don't know. I don't see a problem with starting a player at right tackle, or even I think Broderick Jones' skill set is honestly better suited to right tackle than left tackle anyway. He's a far better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. We'll see. If he goes out there and looks like a totally different player at left tackle, maybe you'll be able to see that. I'm personally a little skeptical that's what's going to happen.
So this is where I'm at with this. I agree with you on the guard part because, as I said before, we like as you just said, guards a lot more. So you're on guard. You're surrounded on either side of yourself, whichever guard position that you play. It doesn't matter what happened. Left step, right step. That's good. That's going to be the same. Right tackle and left tackle. Those are different challenges because of the edge rushers you face, especially in pass protection. Because you have to do your drop sets. It's a big part of what you do. It's a whole other skill. It's why tackles are paid much more than guards typically in the NFL. But again, that's part of what the Steelers are looking for there to get out of Broderick Jones, is they're trying to see what he can do there. I think it's also important to remember that like a big part of this too was that they might have moved Broderick Jones to left tackle if Troy Fautanu stays healthy last year. When Dan Moore, maybe not early because Dan Moore was playing really well, but by the time Dan Moore fell off last season, maybe that's when they say, okay, Broderick at left, there you go, let's get this going. But Dan Moore, I mean, whatever it was, I mean, you and I talked about that for years. I didn't understand why they couldn't move Dan Moore to right, but apparently it couldn't happen. And so
they could have. I mean, here's the thing: Dan Moore wasn't good enough at left tackle. He had never played right tackle, and like he was barely hanging on to a roster spot as it was. Like, you're not going to take a guy who's barely playing at left tackle and then, all right, learn a new position. Like, what the Steelers really needed when they drafted Dan Moore was to give him a year to learn right tackle as a rookie, which is what they intended to do. They wanted Zach Banner to play. Zach Banner couldn't play, and then Dan Moore would have learned right tackle, but then again, Dan Moore just got an $82 million contract, so he's probably not complaining about the way that played out. And the Steelers are getting a third-round compact for him. So as long as they didn't screw up Broderick Jones by playing with right tackle for 2 years, which I don't believe that they did, everything's going to work out okay here. But to me personally, when I look at Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones, I think Troy Fautanu is better suited to left tackle than Broderick Jones is. Like, that's the way I would play him. But
you mean as far as how you've seen them play, or do you mean
like he's a far better pass protector, and and it's not just about total ability. He's a far more consistent player.
He is.
Broderick Jones has a lot of up and down to his game. Like, he has a lot of really good reps,
kind of like Kevin Dotson.
Okay, well, with the big zeros on the quarterback's blind side, especially if it happens to be a 42-year-old immobile quarterback, those are big problems. Right. I think Fautanu is less prone to those than Broderick Jones is. So I would be playing him the other way. But the Steelers think they can make this work, and we'll see.
I mean, look, I think Broderick Jones prototypically, just his body size, if he could be a left tackle, he's perfect. Like, as far as how he's built, the length, that
he can do the job. There's no question about that. It's just a question of which is better. Like, I don't think there's any question that either of them could do it. But I think you gave me those two pieces. I would go. I think it's an easier, more natural fit for Fautanu's game at left tackle and Jones' game at right tackle.
I mean, heck, his left tackle was the inverted left tackle because in college, because his quarterback was left-handed and everything. But at the same time, he still played there. And like you said, he's more experienced. Like the knock on Broderick Jones when he was coming into the NFL was, hey, he's really, really raw. It's going to take time to develop him. Troy Fautanu was not really, really raw. He was a ready-to-go guy.
He has now, since high school, played almost 500 more snaps of right tackle than he has left tackle.
That's pretty crazy.
So what's his? I hate these two words. Every time somebody says natural position, I want to stab someone with an ice pick. But what's his natural position now? He's played more right tackle than he has left.
Don't stab people with ice picks, kids. You can continue. I was just throwing that in there. We don't promote violence here at the Locked On Steelers podcast, unless Alan Saunders
doing it. Not out here doing it. I just said I want to. Okay. You're allowed to think the thoughts, you just can't act on them.
Listen, if there was to be violence inside on this podcast, it'd be for the next person that tells me that Will Howard is Big Ben 2.0. So that would be that. But to your point, I think we're both in agreement here to answer Noah's question. I don't think it's as big of a detriment. Like, for example, Kevin Dotson, way back when I used to do his stars and skulls, if y'all remember, he would have games where he was 3 stars and then games that he was 3 skulls. Like, he literally averaged out a C because he was boom or bust almost so many games. And what he did was he removed the busts. And that's what I thought could happen with Kevin Dotson. It just didn't work out that way for the Steelers. He's doing it in Los Angeles, and good for him. Kevin Dotson, I thought, was always a cool guy whenever I talked to him. So I wish him well. And I'm glad to see that he's doing well for himself, but that does not mean that applies to every single body. And to your point about Kendrick Green, he doesn't really count because he really hasn't worked anywhere in the NFL. That was just a bad draft pick right there. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the potential. We've been talking about the players the Steelers could trade for. What about players they could trade away? Not talking about TJ Watt. Some people want to know about Minkah Fitzpatrick. We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders. Stick with us. We'll be right back. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. As always, you can call into the show at 412-223-6644. When you get there, leave a voicemail with your name, where you're from. Keep your question under a minute. We'll try to get your question on the show. This one comes from Dave out in Ohio, asking about Minkah Fitzpatrick. Take it away, Dave.
Hey, Chris, it's Dave. I'm out of Dayton, Ohio, close to Cincinnati, Pittsburgh Steelers. A question about Minkah Fitzpatrick. Everybody was on the train, I want to say, when we needed draft capital or trying to make a big move about trading TJ Watt. My question is, why is TJ Watt the only trade option? Me, personally, I love Minka. I know everybody in Pittsburgh Steelers fandom loves Minka. But for me personally, I think I've noticed Minka slipping the last couple of years. And before it's a total league-wide known thing that it's a slippage from him, wouldn't it be good to trade him and get some good draft capital or some people in that'll refurbish the team? Just a thought. Thanks for listening, and keep doing everything that you're doing. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Dave. As always, you can call in like Dave did and like Noah did at 412-223-6644. Leave your name, where you're from. Keep your question under a minute. Alan, I'll take that to you. What should the Steelers even entertain the idea of trading Minkah Fitzpatrick? He's been a Pro Bowler the last 2 years, but notably not the first team All-Pro guy that he's done 3 times before that. Is it time to abandon this? He's 29 years old this season, and he's only had 1 interception in the last 2 years. Personally, I still think that Minkah Fitzpatrick has a lot more in him to show, at least for another 2, maybe 3 years for the Steelers. But some people might disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're not trading anybody between now and the start of the 2025 season. Like, that's not happening. Now, if you want to talk about like trying to get draft capital for 26, looking to trade up for a quarterback, I do think like it's possible. Minkah Fitzpatrick's play has definitely not been the same over the last 2 seasons in terms of his splash contribution to the defense. The Steelers live on turnovers. The whole mantra of the defense is the yards don't matter. Get turnovers, stop them from scoring points. Yeah, right. Field goals, not touchdowns, and turnovers. That's the whole thing they're trying to do. And if you're not contributing to that, are you worth, he's got a $22 million cap hit this year. I think it goes up to 24 something next year. Mm-hmm. I think it starts to look like if he has another year where he's not really contributing to the splash plays on defense, I think you can start to make an argument that he's not worth the contract anymore. I also am not sure what a free safety who's not worth his contract is going to bring you back in terms of in terms of draft capital, to the point that, like, how are you better off? Like, if all you're getting is a 3rd round pick for him, I think I'd rather just have Minkah Fitzpatrick and play on the chance that he could turn things back around, as opposed to, I mean, what are you going to do with free safety instead of that? Like, I think this situation where he is traded is probably fairly narrow, where, like, maybe it's a really bad safety class. Like, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing it, but I guess I wouldn't totally rule out the idea of trading Minkah Fitzpatrick next spring. Certainly nothing is going to happen this offseason.
No, I agree with you in that Minkah Fitzpatrick, his value is to the Steelers. I think unless someone else sees, like, hey, we can take this guy on his current contract and make that work, then I could see them making it, someone saying, like, okay, sure. But I just don't think that's what teams are going to be willing to cough up anything for what he's worth to the Steelers. Even without his interceptions, and you and I have talked about this, Minkah Fitzpatrick still does a good job protecting the middle part of the field and keeping the lid on the defense when he's back there. Now, the problem is, teams haven't felt the need to really go after him that much in the past couple seasons. The cornerback position has yielded a lot of mistakes as the Steelers have been trying to figure things out there. Meanwhile, the Steelers, when they're not stuffing the run and they're not putting teams on their heels and forcing them into desperate passing situations, and the offense isn't putting up points. Yeah, Minkah Fitzpatrick's not going to have as many great turnover opportunities because teams are going to actively try to avoid him. And I think that's kind of what's happened. Now, again, it doesn't alleviate Minkah Fitzpatrick from his own mistakes, because he certainly misplayed things, and he's made his mistakes over the past couple seasons. But I still think there's the potential for Minkah Fitzpatrick to get back to being that top-tier safety again for the Steelers. It starts with, one, stuffing the run. It continues with the cornerbacks playing well enough to say, hey, you can't just pick on the sidelines like that. And then when that starts to happen, then it will be up to Minkah Fitzpatrick to say, hey, I'm still that guy. I still have those abilities. And if you trust me to work the middle part of the field, I'm going to get the ball back for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think we can acknowledge that the splash is what gets you paid. But also, like, I think there's a bit of a lack of appreciation for what Minkah Fitzpatrick has done beyond that, because you don't notice free safety. You don't notice good free safety play. It just doesn't exist. Like, it's not, you don't notice it. The ball doesn't get thrown there. The big run plays don't materialize. Like, nobody is sitting there at home fired up about a tackle 5 yards downfield. But you're not seeing a lot of big running plays through the center of the Steelers defense. You're not seeing dump offs to the tight end in the middle of the Steelers defense go for 60 yards. You're not seeing slant and goes, for touchdowns. And you will see those if you replace Minkah Fitzpatrick with a worse player at free safety, because you're trying to be cheap at the position. You can do that. Lots of teams are cheap at free safety, but I mean, there is value in what he's brought to the table, even outside of the lack of splash. That's for sure.
And here's the thing: if that value remains, that he's keeping the lid on things, and the splash comes back, then all of a sudden you're back to getting your all-pro safety, and then you're not trading him because he's your guy. I think it's as much as it's about him. Sometimes it's more so about the situation around him that's led to these things. I don't think that the Steelers are trading him. If they are, I think it's because someone gave them a haul for him, and the haul wouldn't have to be like too big, but I'm saying, like, getting a little bit more for the value. Like, you know what? We're trying to rebuild. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. We could use this moving forward. I think that's where some people even envision it. They're like, just get rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, get, whatever you can get draft wise, and then just take that into 2026 and just, hope for the best. I don't think the Steelers are trying to do that. I don't think they're going to do that, but I do think they want to be in the position where they hopefully they want to see him playing well, playing at a high level again, and then they'll talk contract extension. But I think they do want to see this thing play out before they agree to anything. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, this could be the pivotal year, a pivotal season in his career if he wants to get what would be, I guess, his third contract in the NFL.
Yep.
So there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like. And the other part of this is, like, this. I think the Steelers have what they need in terms of draft capital. Like, I don't think they're gonna be sitting in a situation where it's like we have to make another trade to get the quarterback we want. Like, I don't think they're gonna be there. I think they're gonna be okay. So like that's the other part of the question was like, you know, the Steelers are looking at getting draft capital. Do they do this? I don't think after trading George Pickens, they need any more than what they've already got coming.
I'm right with you there. He's Alan Saunders. I'm Chris Carter. Thank you for tuning into the Locked On Steelers podcast. OTAs resume today. We'll both be there, so check out us. Alan, thanks for joining us here. Let people can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
@Saunders_PGH on social media. PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. You can find my podcast, Steelers Afternoon Drive, and Steelers Morning Rush on the Steelers Now YouTube page or anywhere you find podcasts.
Absolutely. He's Alan Saunders. I'm Chris Carter. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all the social medias, all the same handle @Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. You can find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down your Pittsburgh Steelers on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Back here tomorrow after week 2 of OTAs begins, right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.